you how to make a Christmas wreath. I'll just show you an example of a similar one that we're going to make together. So you should have received your wreath kit, and in the instructions I would have said to put your foliage in water to have a little bit of a drink. So if you just bring that out now and put it on your table and take out all your embellishments as well, and I'll show you what to do next. So you would have found that you have a moss wreath ring in your kit. This is what we're going to build our wreath on. So the first thing you need to do is get your string and tie it onto the top of your mossed wreath. So do it in a double knot so it's nice and tight, and just leave a tail as we're going to bind the foliage round the wreath, and then we want to tie the string off back when we're round the wreath. Okay, now that's tied on, we just need to get our foliage ready. I've already cut up a lot of your foliage just because it made it easier to package in the box. So all of your pine should already be chopped into pieces, and you'll have some that are longer than others and some that are bushier than others, and you can use them, it sort of depends where you use them on your wreath as to what size you use. You've also got different types of eucalyptus in your pack. So you've got these ones, which are Eucalyptus parvifolia. They create a nice spiky feathery effect to your wreath. And you also have some populus berries as well, which create a nice contrasting texture and a bit of movement as they're quite sort of wavy. So I'm just going to finish cutting my foliage into different pieces. So as I said with the pine, I leave some short and some long, and then you can use them in different places in your wreath. I always discard the bits I don't want on the floor, and then I just have a good sweep up after. You don't want to be worrying too much about keeping really tidy at this stage. So now all your pieces are ready. If you just divide them into their different piles on your table, and then you'll know what you're working with. So you've got your pine, you've got your eucalyptus populus berries, and you've got your Eucalyptus parvifolia. Now this is your traditional Christmassy foliage, and it lasts really, really well out of water and stays really fresh for weeks and weeks. And it's also really good at filling in the wreath and making it look fuller. So as I make my wreath, I always use this more on the base, and then these pieces, which I'd say are more sort of special foliage, I put them on the top because they're a bit more detailed and you want them to be on show a little bit more. So first of all, you just want to get some pieces of foliage and just lay them on your wreath, and you're going to bind them round with your string like this. And then once you've twisted the string round, you want to give it a little bit of a tug, and then that will just secure it on nicely to the wreath. So as you can see, I've put a layer of pine on there, and then I then like to put a bit of this on the top. And I actually poke this into the moss because it then brings it out a bit more and makes it look a little bit bigger. And then I bind it back, and I bind it on again. I forgot to mention this at the start, we've also got a few birch twigs that I'm going to use in this wreath, and I'm going to use a lot of them towards the outside of the wreath, spraying out. It then gives the illusion that the wreath is bigger, and it works quite nicely coming out of the sides. And as you bind the foliage on, just make sure that you're covering not only the top of the wreath, but the outside and the inside as well. So you don't want to really see much of the moss. It's not too much of a problem if you do see the moss, because it is quite natural and rustic looking anyway. And also when you put your embellishments on, you can always fill bits in where the moss is showing through. And just remember just to keep moving on, so moving the foliage round the wreath. Try not to bunch it up all in one place, as it will get bigger and bigger and you won't be moving on. And it will be hard to keep that up all the way around. So just remember to keep moving it round. As you work around the wreath, just remember to keep looking at it from a bird's eye view to make sure that you're just making the wreath evenly, so one bit isn't sort of thicker than the other bit. But also, if when you finish the wreath you find that there are gaps or one bit is a bit thicker, that can easily be can't think what the word is put right. That can easily be put right. You can wire other pieces in, wire other foliage in, or use the embellishments in any spaces, gaps. But to be honest, it's a natural rustic looking wreath, so you know, if you like that sort of look, it doesn't really matter too much if it's rustic looking. Because after all, it's foliage, it's a natural thing, and in the garden or in the wild, that's how they'd grow. They wouldn't grow all uniform and perfectly. As you near the end of your wreath, you just need to lift up the foliage that you first put down, and then just bind some foliage underneath those, and then the string will be disguised. Right, so when you think you've come to the end, just turn the wreath upside down, and you want to cut your string, and then you should have your tail that you left at the start, and you just want to tie them together securely in a double knot. Like so, and then just trim them. And then you should have a nice foliage sort of wreath. You might want to keep it like this. Some people like it all natural, but I'm going to show you how to jazz it up a little bit. So, first of all, just clear your workspace. There should be a loop, if you haven't found it in like I have. Yeah, there should be a loop at the back, and that's where you're going to hang your wreath. So that is at the top. So find where your top is, and the first thing I do is put the bow on. So I've got a nice white velvet bow here, which should show up really nicely on the wreath. So you just want to tie a little bow, and I do them how you do the laces on your shoes. So just a little bow like that, and then you're going to get a wire and just thread that through the centre of your bow, at the back of your bow, and bring that back down like that, and then twist them together. And then we're going to use this wire to attach the bow onto your wreath. So you can put the bow anywhere on your wreath. So it could either go at the top, which I usually like at the top, or it could go at the bottom, however way you like it. So I'm going to put mine at the top. So you just get your wire and you should just be able to poke it through your moss. So if you just do it gently, but sort of firm as well, you just don't want to bend your wire because then it's hard to get through. Just try and keep your wire straight as you push it through. And then it comes through the other side. You just want to trim it and bend it back round and poke the wire back into the moss. So you don't want to scratch your door with any wires. Like so. And just tweak your bow a little bit. And just going to get my material scissors. Trim your bow. So I like to just cut mine at an angle. Some people like to cut little V's in them. Some like to just have it straight. I like to do them just so they're sort of an angle like that. So it's quite simple. So that's it with the bow on. So you might want to just keep it like that with the bow on, which I think looks quite effective, just the foliage and the bow. But I am going to show you how to put the embellishments on if that's what you'd like to do. So first of all, I'll show you how to wire pine cones. So you'll have some wires in your pack. So if you just choose the slightly shorter ones, and you're just going to put them round the bottom scales of the pine cone and leave one length a bit shorter than the other one. You're going to bring them together and then twist them like that. And that's how you wire a pine cone. I'll show you again with this one. You get your wire and you wrap it round the bottom scales, bring them back together and wire them like that. I'll just wire the other ones. You've also got some lotus seed heads in your pack, and again just get the shorter wire, and you wire them by pushing the wire through the bottom of it, not through the stem as that's too hard, but just the bottom bit there. Push it all the way through so it comes out the other side, and again leave one a bit shorter than the other, bring it down and then twist it. And that's how you wire a lotus seed head. And then we've also got some fruit slices here, which I'll show you how to wire. You could bunch them in bunches of 3 or 2, or even just 1. I'm going to bunch them in little bunches of 2. So I'll choose a slightly bigger one and then a smaller one. So you just put them on top of each other, and then you just push the wire through the soft bit of the fruit on the bottom, and then just twist the wires together again. So that's how you wire a fruit slice. So I'll do a couple more of those. They smell nice and Christmassy. Right, like so. And now I'm going to show you how to wire some thistles. So you just want to cut them first of all, like this, leaving about that much of the stem. And to wire these, you need to get your short wire again, and you're just going to bend it so it creates a hook, like that. So there's one bit of wire shorter than the other, and you're going to lay it parallel onto the stem, like that, and then you're going to get the longer one, and you're going to twist it round the shorter wire and the stem. So it's like that. And just wire the other ones. It takes a bit of getting used to wiring, so don't worry if you struggle with it a little bit, or you have to pause me and rewind me. It takes, yeah, a little bit of practice. And then finally, I put some little baubles in there for you. You might have them in your pack. I'm going to wire each of those as well. So I'll just wire them. I mean, they've already got a little wire on them, but they need a longer wire and a stronger wire to get through the moss. So I'm just going to wire them the same way I wired the thistle. So I'm just going to do the hook and then just twist it around the other one. I'll just wire a few of those. The baubles show up quite nicely in the wreath, as the wreath is quite, when you're just using sort of all these natural materials, it can look quite sort of dark, whereas the baubles sort of help to brighten it up a bit. But not everybody likes them. Some people like to keep it nice and natural and rustic, which looks lovely as well. You might have got red berries in yours, fake or false red berries, so they're just wired the same way as well. And I'll just show you how to wire the whole wreath. I'll just get one. Some of you might have got some of these in your pack as well. These can be a little bit tricky to wire, but I'll show you how to do it. So you should have these longer wires, and they're thicker as well. So you just want to cut the wire at an angle so it creates a sharp point, and you just want to push it through the soft bits of the fruit, and you need to somehow push it through so it comes out the other side like that. It can be a bit tricky, and sometimes the wire bends, so sometimes you just got to cut it and start again, or start on the other end, or choose another wire, because it needs to be quite straight to be able to push through. And you just twist it around like that. That's how you wire a whole dried fruit. Okay, so now you've got all your pieces wired, you can then decide where you want to place them. So it's good just to think a little bit about where you're going to put them before you start. So you might want to bunch a few together. So for example, you might want to get a cone, some orange slices and a thistle, and put them in little groupings. Or you might just want to randomly place it throughout the wreath. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to start putting my cones on first. So you just want to push it, find where you want it to go, and then just push it through the moss. So the wire comes out the other end, and again you just want to trim the wire, bend it back round and push it into the moss, like that. So it sort of fixes on like that. Just place some more cones on here. worry if you're not as fast as this, it's just because I'm being videoed, that's why I'm going faster. But take your time and enjoy the process. Maybe I'll put one at the top. So that's it with the pine cones on, like so. Now I'm going to put the lotus seed heads. So I've got 3 of those. I'm just going to think where I want to put them. So let's put one up here. So that's it with the pine cones and the lotus seed heads on. And now I'm going to put my thistles in, I think. I really like these thistles. They've got that nice sort of blue tint to them. They look really nice against the foliage. That's it with the thistles on as well. Now I'm going to put my fruit slices in. They show up a bit more in the wreath as they're a bit of a lighter colour. That's it with the fruit slices in. As you can see, they show up quite a bit more in the wreath. Now I'm going to put my little baubles in, and they should show up nicely in there as well. So that's all of my baubles in as well. There you go, and there you have it, a Christmas wreath. Please don't worry if it takes you a little bit longer. I've done it really quickly for the camera. I know I'm used to doing it as well. But just take your time and really enjoy it. Put some Christmas music on as well, if you haven't already made the wreath. Yeah, and enjoy yourself. And remember to send me a picture or tag me on Instagram, as I'd love to see what you've done. Thank you very much for listening.